Hi parents, welcome back to IEP Advocacy. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of questions on Facebook and messaging boards around how a medical diagnosis or the actual category that a child is found eligible for special education under will impact the services that that child receives. So let's break this down a little bit. As far as a medical diagnosis goes, any assessments that have been done, any medical diagnoses will absolutely be considered during the evaluation process. However, they are only considered the school's comprehensive evaluation, as well as the determination of impact on your child's educational progress, is what will ultimately determine the category that your child is found eligible under, as well as the services and accommodations that will be outlined in the IEP for your child. So a medical diagnosis does not equal an educational diagnosis. While that will be considered, it is not the end-all be-all to determine whether a child receives special education or not. Also, the category that a child is found under does not specifically drive the services that he or she is eligible to receive. Under IDEA, there are 13 different categories that a child can be found eligible for special education under. And while the category gives some insight into the types of services a child may need in order to receive a free and appropriate public education, it does not determine if a child is or is not eligible for certain types of services. The services and the accommodations are determined by the IEP team around three main categories. One, in order to make adequate progress towards the annual goals that are outlined in the IEP, in order to make progress in the general education curriculum, and in order to participate in extracurricular and non-academic activities within the public education system. Okay, so the category, while it will give insight and it ultimately says, yes, your child does need special education services, does not determine what services are ultimately provided and outlined in the IEP for your child. This is where we get to what does drive that. How do we know? And the comprehensive evaluation that is done initially. So there's an initial evaluation to determine eligibility, and then there's typically a reevaluation every 3 years to determine the child's needs at that point and how things may have changed. That is what gives the team the data, the information to create an appropriate IEP for the child. The comprehensive evaluation that the school does is crucial in order to determine your child's needs and the services that will help them to accomplish adequate progress on their IEP, adequate involvement in the general education curriculum, and that involvement in the extracurriculars and non-academic things that happen at school. And so the needs, the assessment tools and strategies that the school uses is more important than the category, and it is more important than anything you bring to the school from your physician. Let's say that again. The assessment tools that your team uses is more important than anything from your doctor and more important than the actual category that your child is found under. We want to make sure that the team is gathering information from multiple sources. That includes parent input, classroom observations, formal evaluations with the school psychologist, occupational therapist, intervention specialist, speech pathologist, physical therapist. You want those formal evaluations done, as well as any informal assessments, such as surveys and different forms that are used with different members of the team to gather additional information. I know that was a lot. I hope it was helpful. So just to recap, medical diagnosis and category are important in giving the team that high level information about your child. but it is not what dictates the services. What dictates the services is need, and how we know the needs of your child is through a comprehensive evaluation that gives good, solid data, a good, solid baseline to then determine what is going to be outlined in that IEP.